It's funny how life can take a turn you never saw coming, isn't it? One moment, you're celebrating your birthday surrounded by people you love, and the next, you're sitting alone in a hospital room, wondering how you got here. But let me back up a bit. I'm Jessica, 32, born and raised in Philadelphia, a city that's loud, gritty, and real, where every street corner tells a story and every person you meet has lived through something tough. Maybe that's why I was drawn to Jake in the first place. He had that rough around the edges charm that I found irresistible. I thought we were a perfect match to people who understood the struggles of life. When Jake and I got together, things moved fast. Too fast, maybe, but at the time, I was all in. He told me he was ready for something serious. He made me feel like I was the center of his world. It felt like a fairy tale with a happy ending, or so I thought. But nothing in my life ever felt that simple. Not with Jake. The day it happened, I was already in the hospital, fighting off pain from a minor surgery. Nothing too serious, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't feeling vulnerable. When Jake dropped me off that morning, he promised he'd be back soon. I didn't expect him to leave me there alone for hours while he celebrated his ex's birthday. I know, right? That's the kicker. He went to celebrate his ex's birthday. At first, I thought maybe he was just being polite, some last-minute obligation. But as the hours dragged on, my doubts started growing like a storm cloud I couldn't ignore. He wasn't answering my texts, didn't pick up his phone. I could feel the ache of betrayal already starting to sink in. I should have been furious, but I wasn't. Instead, I felt numb, like everything I thought I knew about our relationship was crumbling right in front of me. Philadelphia might be loud, but in that hospital room, it was deathly silent. Just me, my thoughts, and the heavy realization that something wasn't right. The silence of that hospital room was broken only by the soft beeping of the machines and the occasional shuffling of a nurse outside. But my mind was deafening. I kept replaying the events over and over, trying to make sense of what was happening. Jake wasn't the kind of guy to just forget about me, or at least, that's what I told myself. But the longer I waited, the more I started to question everything I thought I knew about him. Then came the text. It buzzed on the nightstand, interrupting my spiraling thoughts. At first, I didn't even want to look, but curiosity got the best of me, so I grabbed my phone. It was from Jake. "I'll be late. Still at Emma's. Will update you soon. Emma." His ex. I stared at the screen, blinking as if the words might somehow rearrange themselves into something that made sense. I wanted to believe it was nothing, that maybe he was just being kind, maybe even a little too kind to his ex. But this was ridiculous. I couldn't even remember the last time we talked about her. She had been a ghost in our relationship, a shadow I never expected to become so real. My fingers hovered over the screen, the decision to respond weighing heavily on me. It wasn't about the fact that he was with her, it was the fact that he was telling me, so casually, that he'd be spending hours with her. On my birthday, I could feel the anger bubbling up, but I forced myself to take a deep breath. I wasn't going to let him see me break. Not like this. Not when I was already so vulnerable. Instead, I typed out a simple message. "Do what you need to do. I'll be fine." I hit send, and then I hated myself for it. Why was I giving him this control? Why was I just sitting there, letting him treat me like an afterthought? The more I thought about it, the more I realized something. This wasn't just about him being late, or about him choosing her over me. This was a bigger problem. A problem I hadn't been willing to face until now. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't been willing to admit before. I wasn't just his girlfriend. I was his backup plan. The days after I made the call felt like a blur. I kept replaying the moment over and over in my head. Those few minutes with the lawyer, the decision to finally say enough was enough. It was strange how final it all felt, and yet how unreal. The hospital room started to feel like a prison. Every sound felt distant. Every thought seemed out of place. Jake hadn't texted me since that night, and honestly, part of me had hoped he'd come to his senses and try to explain himself. But there was a cold finality in the silence that made it clear he wasn't coming back. 2 days later, I was finally released from the hospital. I had been waiting for this moment, waiting to be free. But as I walked out of the sterile building, the weight of my decision hit me. The world seemed different now. How could it not be? Everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and loyalty had been shattered. And for what? A man who couldn't even be there for me when I needed him most. I didn't hear from him for a week. No calls, no texts, nothing. It was like I never existed. Then, out of nowhere, he showed up at my door. I wasn't expecting it. I'd finally started to feel like myself again. I had finally found peace, even if it was just a little bit of it. But then, there he was, Jake, standing in my doorway, his face full of regret. "I'm sorry, Jessica," he said, his voice shaking. "I never should have left you. I was stupid. I was confused. You've always meant everything to me." I stared at him, my heart pounding. It wasn't just the words he was saying, it was the desperation in his voice. The way he was looking at me, as if he expected me to drop everything and forgive him. But that's not how it works, is it? The truth is, I had forgiven him before. Too many times. I had been patient, understanding, willing to put up with his mess because I thought I was helping him. But in the end, I had only been helping myself to misery. I took a step back, shaking my head. "No, Jake, I'm done." His face fell, his eyes brimming with tears. But it was too late. The man who had promised me the world couldn't even be there for me when I needed him most. And in that moment, I realized that my decision wasn't just about him anymore, it was about me. It was about choosing myself. He stood there, still in disbelief, as I slowly closed the door in his face. For the first time in years, I felt like I had control. But as I stood there, locking the door, I couldn't help but ask myself, did I make the right choice? Was I wrong to walk away from everything we had? I had to ask myself, is it better to fight for love? Or is it smarter to walk away and never look back? What would you have done? I tried to keep myself busy, but the minutes felt like hours. And I was no fool. I could feel the weight of what was happening, even if I refused to acknowledge it outright. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart skipped a beat, only to deflate in disappointment when it wasn't Jake. And yet, I told myself I'd be fine. I should be fine. I mean, we all have our struggles, right? Jake's just a guy with a complicated past, trying to figure things out, and I had to respect that. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. But deep down, the truth was gnawing at me like a cold, creeping hand. It was nearly PM when I finally got another message from him. It read, "Hey, I'm staying the night here with Emma. I'll be back tomorrow. Don't wait up." The words hit me like a slap in the face. Staying the night? For Emma's birthday? My vision blurred with a mix of anger and hurt. I could feel my chest tightening as I tried to process it. This is it, Jessica, I thought. This is where it all changes. I sat up in the hospital bed, my mind racing. I knew what I had to do, but the question was, could I do it? I picked up my phone and hesitated for a moment before opening the contact list. I scrolled down until I found the name I was looking for: divorce lawyer. I had never imagined myself in this position. I had always believed in love, in commitment, in fighting through the hard times together. But this wasn't love anymore. This was something else. I tapped the number and it rang. 3 rings. 4. 5. I was about to hang up when the voice on the other end finally answered. "Hello. This is Sandra. How can I help you?" I cleared my throat, trying to steady my voice. "I need to file for divorce tonight." There was a pause. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice calm but understanding. I felt the tears well up in my eyes, but I forced them back. "I'm sure." And just like that, it was done. I made my decision. I was done with being second place, with being the one who always came last. I wasn't going to wait around for someone who treated me like I didn't matter. I hung up the phone, staring at it for a long moment, feeling both a sense of relief and a rush of fear. I had taken the first step, but the road ahead wasn't going to be easy. There was no turning back now. And as I sat there in that sterile hospital room, a part of me knew I wasn't just leaving Jake behind. I was leaving behind the version of me who had been afraid to choose herself.